Love, lies, and deception. A heartbreaking online betrayal in the vast world of the internet. Where connections are formed with a single click, Emily never thought she would fall so deeply in love with someone she had never met. A simple friend request on social media led to the most intense relationship of her life. His name was Ryan, or at least that's what he called himself. Emily was a 27-year-old freelance graphic designer, spending most of her days working from her small apartment in London. Her social life was limited, and online interactions provided her a sense of comfort. When Ryan messaged her one evening, his words were kind, his humor was captivating, and his stories were intriguing. He claimed to be a software engineer from New York, working on a big project that required frequent travel. Over time, their chats turned into long video calls, though oddly, Ryan always had excuses for keeping the camera off. Bad connection, not looking presentable, traveling with work colleagues. He always had a reason. Emily, blinded by love, never questioned him. The way he spoke, the way he listened to her problems, and the way he made her feel special were enough for her to trust him completely. 6 months into their relationship, Ryan expressed his love for Emily in ways she had never imagined. He wrote her poetry, sent her voice messages filled with affection, and even talked about their future together. He promised that as soon as his current project ended, he would visit London, and they would start a new chapter of their lives. Emily was overjoyed. Then one day, Ryan called Emily in a panic. He explained that he was stuck in Dubai on a business trip, and his bank account had been frozen due to security issues. He needed her help, just a temporary loan of $5,000 to book his flight home and settle his hotel bills. He promised to return it as soon as he reached New York. At first, Emily hesitated. She had never sent money to anyone she had not met in person. But Ryan's desperation, his pleading voice, and his unwavering assurances convinced her. After all, they were in love, and love required trust. Without much thought, she wired the money to the account he provided. A week passed. Then 2. Then 3. Ryan was nowhere to be found. His phone was switched off, and his social media profiles disappeared overnight. Panic set in as Emily realized what had happened. She had been scammed. Heartbroken and humiliated, Emily tried to track him down. She reported the incident to the authorities, but the response was discouraging. Internet fraud was difficult to trace, and there was little hope of getting her money back. Determined to find the truth, Emily started researching online romance scams. To her horror, she found countless stories similar to hers. Fake profiles, stolen pictures, fabricated stories. It was a well-oiled scheme designed to prey on vulnerable hearts. She discovered that Ryan, or the person behind that identity, had likely done this to multiple victims, vanishing as soon as he got what he wanted. Emily fell into depression. She found herself unable to work, unable to sleep, and unable to escape the overwhelming guilt of being deceived. How had she ignored the warning signs? How had she let herself fall so deeply for a man who was never real? The emotional weight was unbearable. Days turned into weeks, and she isolated herself from friends and family, ashamed to admit how much she had lost, not just financially, but emotionally. Months later, Emily found an online support group for victims of romance scams. She was hesitant to share her story at first, fearing judgment, but as she read others' experiences, she realized she wasn't alone. There were hundreds, even thousands of victims just like her, good, honest people who had simply trusted the wrong person. Slowly, she began to heal. She started writing about her experience, hoping to warn others and prevent them from making the same mistakes. One day, she received an email from another woman who had been scammed by a man named Ryan. She described the same lies, the same stolen pictures, and the same empty promises. It became clear that Ryan was not just one person, but part of a larger network of online fraudsters preying on unsuspecting individuals worldwide. Determined to fight back, Emily collaborated with cybercrime specialists to expose these scammers. She created a website where victims could share their stories, recognize common fraud tactics, and learn how to protect themselves. Her initiative caught media attention, and soon, she was featured in interviews, raising awareness about online romance scams. As time passed, Emily found strength in her mission. She transformed her pain into a powerful movement, warning countless others and preventing potential heartbreaks. Though she would never get her money back, she had found something more valuable: purpose. But Emily's journey wasn't over. As she immersed herself in helping others, she realized how widespread the issue was. The more she researched, the more she uncovered vast networks of scammers operating from various countries, using fake profiles to extract money from victims worldwide. She decided to take her mission a step further. With the help of cybersecurity experts, she started identifying fraudulent social media accounts and reporting them. She worked closely with law enforcement agencies, journalists, and ethical hackers to expose large-scale fraud operations. Her story was published in international newspapers. Victims from around the world reached out, thanking her for giving them a voice. Soon, she was invited to conferences and podcasts, speaking about her experience and the dangers of online fraud. Then, something unexpected happened. One day, she received an email from an anonymous source claiming to have information on Ryan. The sender said they had tracked transactions linked to multiple victims and found a connection to an organized crime syndicate. Emily hesitated. Was this a trap or a real lead? She decided to take the risk. With the help of cybersecurity professionals, she followed the money trail. What they uncovered was shocking. Ryan, or rather, the man behind the persona, was part of a large-scale operation targeting lonely individuals worldwide. The scam extended far beyond what she had imagined. She worked with authorities to hand over the evidence, leading to several arrests. Though Ryan himself was never caught, the operation had been severely damaged. For the first time, Emily felt justice had been served. Years passed, and Emily continued her mission. She started an NGO dedicated to helping victims recover emotionally and financially. She also wrote a book detailing her experience, which became a bestseller. Then, one evening, as she was responding to messages from victims seeking guidance, she received a friend request from a man named Daniel. He was a cybersecurity expert who had read her blog and admired her courage. Unlike Ryan, Daniel had nothing to hide. Their conversations were filled with honesty, laughter, and genuine connection. This time, Emily was cautious, taking her time to build trust. Months later, they met in person. For the first time in a long time, Emily felt hope again. She had been broken, but she had rebuilt herself stronger. Love had betrayed her once, but it had also led her to a new chapter, one she was ready to embrace. After exposing the online scam that had shattered her heart and robbed her of her trust, Emily was determined to continue her mission. She had seen firsthand how dangerous the internet could be, and she refused to let others fall into the same trap. Her website, which initially started as a support platform, had grown into a global network where victims of romance scams shared their experiences, found solace, and sought justice. But Emily wasn't content with just spreading awareness. She wanted real change. She wanted to dismantle the networks of fraudsters who preyed on the vulnerable. And she knew she couldn't do it alone. One day, Emily received an email from a cybersecurity expert named Daniel. He had been following her work and admired her bravery. He told her that the scam she had fallen victim to wasn't just a single operation. It was part of a massive international fraud syndicate. They operated through stolen identities, fake social media profiles, and money laundering networks that spanned multiple countries. Emily and Daniel decided to work together. They gathered intelligence, collaborated with other cyber experts, and even got in touch with law enforcement agencies. With each scammer they exposed, they uncovered even deeper layers of deception. Emily had spent months compiling reports on scammers using her platform. With Daniel's help, they traced IP addresses, tracked money transactions, and identified common patterns among victim stories. The evidence led them to a group operating from West Africa, using sophisticated scripts and stolen personal data to deceive people worldwide. Their breakthrough came when a former scammer, who had left the business out of guilt, agreed to speak to them anonymously. He revealed insider details about how these scams worked, how victims were chosen, and how money was funneled through different accounts before disappearing forever. With this information, Emily and Daniel approached a group of ethical hackers who specialized in digital forensics. The team worked tirelessly to gather undeniable proof of criminal activity. They hacked into fraudulent social media accounts, intercepted scammer communications, and uncovered fake profiles linked to hundreds of cases. As their investigation deepened, Emily and Daniel uncovered shocking truths. Entire call centers in different countries were dedicated to running these scams. They would use love, fear, and emotional manipulation to extort money from unsuspecting victims. Some of these scams had been running for decades, evolving with technology to stay ahead of authorities. As Emily's investigation gained traction, she started receiving anonymous threats, emails warning her to stop, strange calls in the middle of the night. Someone was watching her. She realized she had become a threat to the criminals running these scams. Daniel insisted she move somewhere safe, at least temporarily, but Emily refused to back down. She had lost so much already: her money, her trust, and months of peace. Now, she had something to fight for. One night, as Emily was reviewing case files, she received a message from an unknown number. Asterisk, you're in over your head. Stop now or face the consequences. Asterisk, her hands trembled, but she took a deep breath. Fear had controlled her for too long. Not anymore. Then, something terrifying happened. Her laptop froze, and her screen flickered before displaying a message. Asterisk, we know where you live. Asterisk, a cold shiver ran down her spine. She immediately called Daniel, who assured her they would find the people responsible. But the threats escalated. One evening, Emily noticed a black SUV parked outside her apartment. Every time she looked outside, the car was still there. A few days later, someone attempted to hack into her website, trying to delete all her collected evidence. It was clear she was dealing with powerful criminals who wanted her to disappear. Instead of retreating, Emily went public with her findings. She worked with investigative journalists to publish a report exposing the international scam network. News agencies picked up the story, and soon, the authorities had no choice but to act. International police forces launched operations targeting these cybercriminals, leading to multiple arrests. Interpol, the FBI, and local law enforcement agencies conducted coordinated raids. Call centers were shut down, fake bank accounts were frozen, and key players were arrested. Emily and Daniel watched the news as their months of work finally paid off, but the battle wasn't over. The syndicate was bigger than they had imagined, with new scams appearing every day. Emily vowed to continue her work, now backed by a growing community of cyber experts, journalists, and law enforcement allies. Months later, Emily finally allowed herself to breathe. She had been through hell and back, but she had made a difference. Victims worldwide reached out to thank her, and law enforcement acknowledged her contributions. She was invited to speak at international conferences, sharing her experience and teaching others how to protect themselves from online fraud. As for Daniel, he had become more than just a partner in her mission. Through late-night calls and endless hours of research, they had built something real, something based on truth, trust, and honesty. Emily had once been a victim, but now